So at the end of the day, we have a couple issues with this. The first is what we call coordination. This is where members of the group must decide individually what they want, what they are prepared individually to contribute to the collective enterprise, and then how to coordinate their individual efforts with those of others. The simplest example I can think of is, think about going to dinner with a group of your friends. First, you have to pick a restaurant. You want pizza, someone else wants Thai food, someone else just wants alcohol, the devil's brew as I call it, etc., etc. Your group then spends an hour trying to figure out where to go. Once you finally decide on pizza, well, now what kind of pizza do we get? Where do we get it? Do we go to Benny Vitale's? Do we go to Castiglia's? Do we go to Papa John's? Don't be friends with the person who wants to go to Papa John's, please. What toppings do we get on this pizza? What do we do about the vegetarian in the group? What about the gluten-free person? All these sorts of things. Once we've done this, how do we pay? Someone ends up contributing far less than they're supposed to. At least among my friends, there's always someone who contributes far less than their share. Or they leave a bad tip. This can be a challenge with, at least my friends. I hear from students they don't have these problems. Good for you. You hang out with better people than I do. But imagine doing this with 300 million Americans, including my friends, and trying to figure out something as simple as what to have for dinner. And that's where you get the coordination problem. How much am I willing to contribute to this collective good? What sort of good do I want? How much? Getting 300 million people together. Getting half those people together, right? Get a majority. That's still, for the math majors out there, 150 million plus 1 people. That's a lot. The second type is what's called the prisoner's dilemma. You can read the whole story about the prisoner's dilemma and the different payoffs in the book, and you should. But basically what this means is that problems arise whenever individuals decide that even though they support some collective undertaking, they're personally better off pursuing an activity that rewards them individually, despite undermining the collective effort. What that means simply is that I decide I'm better off by not cooperating with the group, but instead I'm going to do what's in my best interest, and the rest of the group will be worse off because of it. Not my problem. I got mine. Sorry everybody else. This worked for me. The problem here is that if everyone does that, you run into bigger problems that no one contributes to this good. Bad times happen. The only way you can enforce this is when each party is confident that the other will live up to an agreement, then you have to know that we can work together to break out of this dilemma, work to our mutual advantage. If I know you're not going to defect, they call it, do what you want, then maybe I'm more likely to contribute to the public good as well. How do we solve this? Well, that's an excellent question you just asked. Very good. The key here is to make backing out an agreement, defecting from an agreement, very costly. Make it so people are never well served by breaking the agreement, and create a punishment so severe that no one will ever think about breaking the rules. This is where the American penal system comes into place, and we lock people up in jail for not paying their taxes, for example. You don't pay your taxes, we throw you in a cage, and we leave you there for as long as the government sees fit. We make this place so horrible that no one wants to go there. There's problems with that, but that's what we've largely decided is the way to solve the prisoner's dilemma and many of these collective action problems. The next collective action problem we run into is what we call the free rider problem. It's a form of the prisoner's dilemma and was initially conceived by a man named Garrett Hardin back in the days of yore, and it had to do with goats and grass and things like that. But the basic idea is that when everyone's individual contribution to a collective good is small or inconsequential, each member is tempted to not participate or to free ride. The larger the group, the greater incentive to free ride. As an example, think about larger classes versus smaller classes at UMW. In which type of class do you tend to get better class discussion? Well, in a large class with 70 students, it's easy to not participate in class discussion because there's 69 other people who can take up the slack. However, when there's 12 people sitting around a seminar table, it's much harder. The professor knows exactly who you are, knows how much you've contributed or not, and there's only 11 other people who can contribute to the class discussion, so if no one helps, then the discussion is horrible. The professor remembers that, and that's not what you want. You're much more likely to participate in this example. The book gives an example of a string quartet with 4 people versus an orchestra with 100 people. Your contribution is much more noticeable in a quartet than it is with 100. A political example might be that clean air. It's something we want, and if all Americans got together and said, we want clean air, let's stop driving all cars tomorrow. If we did that, we'd improve the environment dramatically, right? Life would be good. We'd breathe clean air. Everybody'd be happy. But what would happen if you all decided to stop driving your cars and I kept driving mine? I drive a VW Jetta. I get pretty good gas mileage, don't pollute that much, and I really don't drive that much because I don't like going places or doing things. Traffic to DC, even if I wanted to go places, would be non-existent because I'm the only one on the road. I can go as fast as I want. Would air quality be noticeably worse because just I am driving? Well, of course not. So I'm going to go ahead and drive. Even though I'm driving, I still get to enjoy all this new, fresh, clean air you're contributing to. Thank you very much, the rest of you. Great for me, too. Life is good. I win. What's the problem with that, though? Exactly. Good answer. The problem with that is that if the logic applies to me, then it applies to each and every one of you, as well as all the people we don't know. So everyone's going to end up driving, and now we're back in this situation we have now, where everyone drives and they can see the smog as we fly into town. Without an enforcement mechanism, people are going to do what they want to do.